Okay, folks, I'll call the meeting to order. Thank you. I think we're good. Welcome to the regular council meeting of February 18th, 2025. A couple of reminders for today's meeting. Members of the media may sit in the upper balcony at the reserved media table. All other guests, please take a seat in the first floor gallery. If that is full, there is overflow seating on the second floor in the Victoria Room where you will be able to see and hear the meeting. We live stream the meeting on our YouTube channel and the recording is available after the meeting. The meeting is also broadcast live on your TV, Cogeco subscribers channel 10, HD channel 700, and rebroadcasted on Wednesday at 9 a.m. and on Saturday at noon. Because meetings are accessible to the public in all of these ways, video or audio recording by members of the public is not permitted in council chambers. This is to ensure that all attendees and those who come to make a deputation feel at ease. Thank you for your cooperation. Could you rise for O Canada? We'll now have a moment of silent reflection. Thank you. Can I get a motion for the adoption of the open session agenda? Councillor Richardson. Do you have?
Thank you, and through you. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Warren, that the agenda for the open session of the regular council meeting on Tuesday, February 18th, 2025 be adopted as circulated with the following amendments, additions. Item 6.1 being a deputation by James R. Webster regarding the Growth Management Strategy 2025. Item 14.1 Point 20, being a bylaw to deem part of the planned subdivision previously registered for the lands within the City of Kawartha Lakes not to be a registered plan of subdivision in accordance with the Planning Act described as lots 34 to 36, Plan 139, parts of lots 38 to 39, Plan 139, and Lot 37, Plan 139 of Kawartha Lakes.
Thank you. Any comments or questions on the agenda? Seeing none, we have a mover and seconder. All in favor? And that's passed. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest on anything on today's agenda? Seeing none, should any arise during the course of the meeting, please advise the chair and we'll deal with it accordingly. Notices and information by members of council. Councillor Richardson.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor, just a few announcements. I know anybody that's doing anything with snow this year is having great turnouts and a lot of fun. So it's a little bit of work out there, but it certainly is nice to see the bright snow out there. This upcoming Saturday, 22nd, live band for Two for the Show will be playing at the Janetville Community Centre. Doors open at 7 p.m. Everyone's welcome. Janetville Community Centre has also just announced their second annual Community Day taking place on Saturday, June 25th. They're currently looking for active volunteers, asking folks to go to the website for the administration details, and please sign up so they can make another successful year. This Saturday, the 22nd, at the Bethany United Church, the Manvers Swans will be hosting their monthly euchre night starting at 6:15. Also at this time, if you don't mind, I certainly want to give a big, huge thanks to our Public Works crews and operators. They've been busting their backsides and clearing snow with the snow wallops we've been getting and the blowing conditions. It's been a tireless winter, and these crews also celebrated Family Day yesterday by plowing snow. So I just want them to know that we certainly are grateful for what they're doing and to let them know that we very much appreciate them.
Thank you. Councillor Warren.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, and ditto to that. They've done an amazing job. Didn't have too many complaints, so that was a good thing, but I know they were working straight out, and I let the public know that when I did get a complaint. I had the pleasure of attending a lovely Valentine's dinner at Aspira Retirement Residences for Valentine's Day. It was really a yummy event, and it was being filmed for Rogers. It was a Farm to Fork event. And so that will be coming out soon. I'll let you know about that. And this past weekend, with all the snow, I was able to get to Frostfest up at Settlers Village, and there were lots of kids out, even though it was a really snowy day. So I just want to thank all the great volunteers that made Frostfest a great event. Thank you.
Thank you. Excuse me. Councillor Joyce.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you, I'm going to start with our regular scheduled announcement on the library first. This council meeting. March break is coming up, and this year's theme for March break is Make It. It's a week-long celebration designed to engage school-aged children and their families through creative hands-on activities. This will include jewelry, a fun jewelry making workshop where kids can design and create unique accessories to take home, enhancing their artistic expression. Create a case. Participants will personalize canvas bags, transforming them into pencil cases, makeup bags, or text storage bags. It fosters both creativity and practical skills. Boats that float. Children will build boats using various materials and then test their designs in water, learning about buoyancy and engineering principles in a fun, hands-on way. Candy sushi, a sweet twist on a classic. Kids will roll Rice Krispies and candy to create their own candy sushi treats, blending fun with edible creativity. Clay pot. Using model magic, kids will sculpt their own clay pots and decorate them with colorful designs, promoting tactile creativity and fine art skills. These are all great programs. I encourage everybody in Kawartha Lakes to take part in their local library. The Little Britain Community Association had their second annual Bonspiel in early February, had 9 teams playing at least 2 games each, and I want to emphasize you don't need to know how to curl. It's more about the fun and camaraderie. And they also raised $300 for the Little Britain community towards good works. And that's all I have for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor McDonald or Councillor Yeo, any notices? No, nothing?
No notices, but again, on Councillor Richardson, and I also like to thank Public Works for their hard work. We're going through a tough time here with the snow, and I know people are getting very impatient, but we have to look at all the people that are out there working 24 hours a day to keep everybody safe on the roads. So thank you very much. I know that we have complaints, but I've also got a lot of calls too to saying that the roads are good and they really appreciate all the work that they do. So I want to share that with the manager, and please share that with your people that I know you're doing the best you can, and we're with you and we'll help you any way we can. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, well, I have a couple of things, and one of them is a follow-on to that, but before that, I have another notice that I want to make. I don't normally do this. Being municipal, we probably shouldn't get involved in international affairs, but okay, that's the way I feel about the whole thing. But talking about snow and snow removal, it has been a challenging year for everybody. And I know the homeowners and businesses and everybody else see the impact of what's going on. But I wanted to address one particular thing, which was sidewalks, particularly in Lindsay. We have 6 machines, sidewalk machines with blowers to clear the sidewalks. 5 of them broke. So we were down to 1. The folks worked this weekend and yesterday to cobble together 2, and this morning the director bought 3 more machines. So we'll be back up to our 6 complement, and we will get those sidewalks cleared just as quickly as we can. But kudos to everybody, and I ask our residents, just be a little patient with us. If you noticed in the Toronto Star this morning, there's an announcement by their city works department that says it will take them up to 3 weeks to clear the snow there. I'm sure our people are going to do it a lot quicker than that, but just maybe we can be a little patient with it under very trying conditions. So thanks very much for your cooperation, and thanks very much to our public works staff who are really, as Councillor Richardson said, working very hard. We'll now move into deputations, and we have with us Mr. James Webster, and he has 2.5 minutes for his deputation because he had 5 minutes the last time. Just press the button at the bottom there, please. There you go.
Thank you. So you have my written submissions. Hopefully you'll take an opportunity to read them. I understand that you may be concerned that there's a suggestion that I had not pursued my applications as assiduously or as quickly as might have been. The material indicates I've had outstanding OP amendment subdivision applications since 2005, 6, 7. Was not able to pursue them because the city was under obligation to do the GMS studies. So they sat in limbo for 10 years until or 8 years, 10 years until the secondary plan came into effect. The subject lands were included for development in the Fenelon Falls secondary plan that was accepted or adopted by Council in 2015 without objections from anywhere for reasons that remain still unknown as a result of the municipal mayors objecting to or appealing the secondary plans because the city had not conducted the necessary studies. The planning department or somebody, I don't know that it had council discussion or approval at the time, deleted the development approval for my Black Bear lands. I've never been able to obtain an explanation as to why they were deleted in totality, and seemingly nobody else's lands were affected. So I don't have concerns going forward, but what the council will treat me properly in the ongoing process, but I do remain concerned that the wording in the GMS is prejudicial to my Black Bear property and anybody else in Fenelon, and that there's no reason that wording, giving preferential treatment to the Fenelon Trails property, should be included. So, I don't know that any of you can or will take the time to look through the applicable files with the planning to see whether what I've said is substantiated in whole or part or not, or again, obtain an explanation as to why the city removed my designation 8 years ago. So I believe I am being prejudiced by the inclusion of the wording in the GMS. So it's not a problem. It's not it. I don't expect to receive fair treatment going forward, but for the reasons I've explained, that can, in an OLT proceeding, the wording in the GMS will be prejudicial to my property. Thank you.
Just stay there for a minute and we'll see if there's any questions. Can I have a motion to receive the deputation? Councillor Perry, Councillor Warren. Any questions for the deputant? Seeing none, thank you for coming
Thank you.
today. And all in favor? Thank you, that's passed. Just going back one step, can I have a motion that the minutes of the regular council meeting of January 28, 2025 be received and adopted? Deputy Mayor McDonald, Councillor Richardson, all in favor, and that's passed. Correspondence, we have from the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus, support of Canadian and Ontario government's negotiations with the United States government on trade tariffs. I have a motion that the correspondence from Bonnie Clark, Chair of the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus, regarding the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus, support of Canadian and Ontario government's negotiations with the United States government on trade tariffs be received. Councillor Joyce, Councillor Perry. Ms. Bokaboom, would you have a few words to say about this?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. This resolution from the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus is in alignment with the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, AMO. It also replicates a Roma delegation that was given a month or so ago in order to provide support to the provincial government in terms of the tariffs and the dealings with the US-Canada agreement. So this resolution is just supporting all of those bodies and the provincial government to carry on the negotiations with the US, and that will follow suit with whatever the province determines is in the best interests of Ontario citizens. What we did want to comment more specifically here at City of Kawartha Lakes is that we're monitoring the spending. We are monitoring how our tenders are coming in. We are analyzing on a regular basis if money is being requested above and beyond the budget set. And we will have a stance that we do not want to dip into the reserves for this purpose. So we'll come to council on those instances with mediation plans, whether that's a deferral, whether it's a partial purchase, and we'll come to you for those decisions when the amounts are beyond the budget. So basically, we're taking a hold the line approach, similar to how we did during COVID, and that no purchases will be being made that dip into the reserves that you've spent such hard work trying to build up over the last few years.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Councillor Joyce.
Yes,
I'll
thank
get to you, Emmett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Director Bukaboom. You're referring to overspending, but how does, like, dipping into the reserves, I mean, how does that relate to buying Canadian versus not? If you could reference that more clearly, please.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, I was referring to the unknown impact of the forthcoming tariffs, that if it starts to produce a spike on some of the goods that we would procure, the capital projects we need to deliver, the cost of new trucks, that if those tariffs impact us to a point that is beyond the current budget, we will look at that very, very carefully and come up with a spending pattern, mitigation strategies to bring back to council before we proceed.
Thank you. That's better. Thank you for the clarification.
Sorry for neglecting that part. Thank you.
Councillor Yeo.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. Everybody's well aware, I sent an email regarding tariffs, and our fire vehicles, as our chassis are bought out of the U.S., and chassis are all made of steel, obviously. And this time next month, there could be 50% tariffs on steel and aluminum and as such. So at what stage or is it too late to counsel tenders, or what are the ramifications of counseling tenders at this point?
Ms. Bukaboom.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor, for the question. I did follow up with a status of where each of those chassis was for Council's awareness. The 2023 fire trucks, the order has been made and the chassis are in the country. So we anticipate that the tariffs would not apply to those that are already received. However, the 24 and 25, while the order is in, we are unaware yet the impact on the tariffs for those particular ones. In the event that the cost of that does surmount or does surpass our willingness to spend, we would not pursue that order of agreement, and we would negotiate and find out what options we have legally to extract ourselves from any agreements or orders. Likewise, with some of our trucks that are on order, those are also coming in over budget. And again, unknowing yet is what prices are going, these firms haven't yet firmed up which amount of tariffs are applicable. So they themselves don't know what they're going to be charging us. So at some point in the future, when those costs are firmed up, we will have to extricate ourselves, if able, and take the hit on that expense, if it's feasible, and otherwise come up with a deferral that allows us another year or two to be able to remediate the purchase.
Yeah, and further to that, and I can understand parts of that, but to say they don't know the ramifications yet, they either have the material for the trucks are available, or they're not. So at this point, we should be focusing on how do we get out of these contracts rather than waiting. My opinion, that's solely my opinion. Because we're going to be doing this for the next at least 2 years, if not 4 years, and we got to start looking at Canadian made. And I know there's fire truck companies in Canada that are Canadian made, that the chassis don't come from the U.S. And I was talking to them at the last trade show I was at, and I know they've been in contact with our fire chief. So it's time we were proactive instead of playing the waiting game, in my opinion. But I'll leave that up to the very capable staff we have. Sorry, you're still there. You're not had. And get on this. Rather be proactive rather than reactive, I think, is the way to go. And that's just my opinion. So I don't need any answers to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Joyce.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Director Buku. It's more of a comment, but hoping this doesn't come to pass, of course, but if we do defer purchases of fire trucks, it might impact our insurance rating. So there's a domino effect here we have to keep in mind. Thank you.
It wouldn't be our insurance rates necessarily, it would be the residents' insurance rates that could be impacted. Thank you. We have a motion on the floor. Mover and seconder, all in favor? And that passes. Thank you. We have no presentations. We'll now move into Committee of the Whole. And the motion that the minutes of the Committee of the Whole meeting of February 4th, 2025 be received and the recommendations included in section 9.3 of the agenda be adopted, save and accept. Councillor Perry, I changed yours to 9.3.5, which was the report. 9.3.5, 9.3.11, 9.3.12, and 9.3.13. Can I have a mover and seconder? Councillor Richardson, Councillor Yeo, all in favor? And that's passed. First one up is 9.3.5. Councillor Perry.
Thanks very much, Mayor, and this is timely following Mr. Webster's deputation just now, it's simply a request by motion to provide an additional sentence within section 9.3.2 of the Growth Management Strategy, which deals specifically with Fenelon Falls, which is in Ward 3. And if I'm able to have a seconder, I would then proceed to discuss the merits of my proposal.
Do you want to read your change?
Oh, looks like we have...
Well, don't you want to hear it first before you second it? So you know what you're seconding?
I kind of know, but that's okay.
One moment, please, Mayor, with your indulgence. Sure, I'm going to be moving, and with the seconding by Councillor Warren, that the following sentence be added to section 9.3.2, which is that the preliminary referred site identified in Fenelon Falls does not prejudice any applications of interested landowners. And that has to do with the fact it's a little unique.
Just a sec, I'll get you a seconder.
Thank you.
Councillor Warren, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I brought this motion building on deputations from earlier discussions with most of you over the past few weeks. Again, I want to commend the chair of the GMS, Chris Appleton, our councillor liaison, Councillor Richardson, Leah Berry, the director, and city staff, and all the volunteers who worked on the growth management strategy. My only short sentence insertion is a very narrow one, sticking specifically to the section which is on Fenelon Falls in my ward, the ward I represent, Ward 3. It's somewhat of a unique situation, Mayor, in that there are 35 hectares that have been identified as available within the urban expansion. And as you know, by reviewing the Fenelon Falls section, a preliminary preferred site has been identified, which is behind Aunt Molly's, in which there is a development application along the way. Essentially, with no disrespect to Mr. Webster, of course, this isn't simply about Mr. Webster and Black Bear. There are other interested owners, landowners, who I know of, who are also interested in potentially developing other places in Fenelon Falls with some of those 38 hectares. We also have a need to make sure that, despite the look of, at first glance, the look of the Fenelon Falls section, that the exclusive allocation does not fall within one site. There are other places in Fenelon Falls, for example, the other side of the bridge, that are of interest to landowners and in need of development and services. And I understand very much in talking to folks that there isn't agreement on the fact that this might or may not be prejudicial. There's disagreement that this would have any prejudicial effect. I understand where that's coming from. This is not going to be approved by the province as a growth management strategy. It's simply to inform, as Director Barry has excellently explained, inform development of the coming process, which is the main process to inform development of the official plan and then passage. The lawyer in me, however, agrees that I see an element of prejudice here in that this is the only optical snapshot included in a growth management strategy report passed by a council. And that's why, that main reason, to be able to address that and also to bring some comfort to other interested developers and other interested landowners, rather, in Fenelon Falls, that simply that sentence be added that this preferred site in this section doesn't prejudice any other applications in there coming forward for an allocation within that 38 hectares or having to remain exclusively on that, the preliminary preferred site. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Warren, did you want to speak to it?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I was wondering if the mover, I don't know if this is in order, I agree, but I think it should take in all urban areas, not just Fenelon Falls. It's growth management. It doesn't actually have any teeth yet, but if you're going to add Fenelon Falls, then all urban areas should be part of that resolution.
But there are only two with excess, and that's Bobcaygeon and Fenelon.
So then I'll add Bobcaygeon then. Is that a friendly amendment?
That can be a friendly.
Thank you.
Anything else?
No.
Want to turn your mic off? Thank you. Councillor Richardson.
Well, you knew I was going to weigh in on this one, in the non-lawyer in me, but as the representative sitting with this study for the last few years, this is where I struggle. You're talking about that prejudiced statement, but that might imply that this whole technical exercise that we've just gone through becomes irrelevant and ignores the long-standing active development work that we have other developers that are actually doing the work in our communities right now underway. In that sense, if we see including such a resolution with this language, is it giving an idea of giving non-active landowners the unfair advantage? That's where I'm struggling with, right? This GMS is a technical document and not a statutory land use instrument, which we had spoke at the last meeting very, very, very compassedly. It's like an instrument used when we do our new OP review, our zoning bylaw. It contains the recommendations for consideration when we are developing our OP and practical direction when we are looking at developing that framework for tracking and monitoring the new development and construction in our areas. So for me, it comes down to the fact that, as council, we're not moving forward and, translating this into where we should be putting things. We're actually translating that we're not approving and we're not supporting specific urban settlement boundaries. By doing this, we're giving ourselves, council and staff, the tools to move forward when we need to move forward with these strategic, land use planning policies that we're doing. I'm totally struggling because I really do feel that by doing this, you're setting the tone and you're not allowing the other non-active land owners the same advantage. I don't think it's needed in this document, and I'm going to stand by that. And I don't know if Director Barry wants to add anything to that.
I got a couple of other people, and then I'll come to you. Is that okay? Councillor Yule.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. And maybe a question to the mover. In the case of Mr. Webster in Fenelon Falls, how would your one line in there about prejudice, how would that affect him?
Answer the question. I mean, Mr. Webster's obviously best to speak for himself, but my understanding is that this way it simply wouldn't be seen. It would assuage concerns that being identified in the GMS isn't going to work against his future applications or those of anyone else that want to come forward. And just in response to Councillor Richardson, that's why the wording is all applications. This wouldn't be prejudicial to any of the applications that will move forward, despite a preferred location being identified in the GMS.
Thank you.
And I thank the mover. I thank the mover for that answer, because I agree with Mr. Webster that he's been, in my opinion, being here since everything he spoke of is true. Since years gone by, his property's been in, it's been out, he's not been allowed to be part of the decision making. He's been cast aside. He's been disparaged upon. Everything he says has happened to him over his properties. So I feel for him, and I wish there was something. And I've asked numerous times. I've asked so many times about why his property was taken out of this and not put in here, and it's just been going on for years and years and years. So I just want to be clear that is this something else that's going to be detrimental to his trying to move forward. So just for my own curiosity, thank you.
No, thank you, Councillor Yeo. And it's not to be detrimental, it's to be the opposite effect, and also not simply for Mr. Webster.
Councillor Joyce.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, I had listened to Councillor Perry earlier and thought it was a rather innocuous line, but I've listened to Councillor Richardson. So I'd really like to hear from either Director Barry or Solicitor Carlson on their opinion on this.
Thank you. Councillor Warren.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. The reason I said all urban areas because this is not deciding on urban boundaries yet, not until we update our official plan. So there may be more growth in Lindsay, there may be more growth in Omemee. If this growth management strategy has no teeth, really, until the OP comes forward, then why can't all urban areas be part of that motion? So I guess that's a question to staff.
Thank you. Councillor Richardson. Director Barry, would you like to weigh in on this and maybe answer Councillor Warren's question at the same time?
Mr. Mayor, thanks for the opportunity. Sure, I'll do my best. And if I haven't captured maybe the essence of some of the questions, I trust the councillors may wish to redirect and give me another shot. The stars are causing quite a stir, quite a bit of attention, and fair enough. Let's maybe take a minute just to break this down a little bit. The shape of the star symbol is actually quite an interesting choice, I would offer to you, Council, on the part of the consultants. It's not an arrow pointing to a specific spot on a map. The star is also not an X, for X marks the spot. Rather, the GMS, which doesn't conclude that any specific land parcels should definitively be inside an expanded urban boundary. Like that, the star's vertices, the corner points, the tips, they all point outward in all directions, telling us there's an opportunity to consider all lands in response to what the GMS does definitively conclude, and that is the land budget. 23 hectares of urban growth in Bobcaygeon and 38 hectares of urban growth in Fenelon Falls. The blue stars represent a snapshot in time. They give us a preliminary read on long-standing development intent or current Planning Act development applications that are in proximity to services, that have few constraints to development. The report text describing the stars refers to them representing a portion of the deficit to be shared. And I emphasize those two terms, they're important, again, clearly telling us the opportunities are not limited to a single expansion site. and that in and of itself makes them impartial and unbiased. The orange and yellow stars in both cases represent opportunities to reshape an urban boundary that doesn't result in a net gain or loss of acreage. Regardless of the color, the stars direct us to explore all of the opportunities to redraw an urban boundary through, as a number of you have already commented on, that being the next planning exercise to follow, our official plan review and update. With the exception of the section on minister's zoning orders identifying lands owned by name by Flato, by Bromont, the GMS deliberately doesn't identify other landowners by name in either Bobcaygeon or Fenland Falls for lands to be included or considered for inclusion in an expanded urban area. The GMS isn't the opportunity to recognize specific non-MZO developers for future service allocations, because that action would be premature and not based on sound planning rationale, like what is undertaken through an OP review or through independent development applications that landowners can file. No other developments were identified, if not in the application queue, at the time that the GMS was developed. And I will conclude my comments with another, in my opinion, important distinction to growth planning today compared to growth planning 15 years ago, the time of the last GMS. The land deficits and targets are minimums now. They aren't maximums. They don't cap development at a certain unit number. So this again leaves the door open to development proposals in the future. It's possible that looking at a mapping excerpt on a page in the GMS in isolation might appear misleading to the reader, if only looked at in that way. But when viewed and read together with the text describing the stars and the provincial policy that guides this work, it becomes abundantly clear to us that the GMS itself is just allowing us to take the next step and decide how to allocate the land budget in the two communities that have a deficit. There were just a couple of notes in the deputation that we heard from that I'll, for council's reference, just point out. There was a suggestion that a development approval had been deleted from Mr. Webster's holdings, and I will explain to council that in fact that isn't the case. There are development approvals that are acknowledged in today's City of Kawartha Lakes official plan under a special policy area. They were converted over from the previous official plan, being the Victoria County official plan, and are in place today. To perhaps Councillor Yo's questions regarding the sort of back and forth that Mr. Webster has experienced having some lands in an urban boundary or outside of an urban boundary. It has been a long and confusing and to many frustrating process, the process of the evolution of the official plan from its adoption in 2010 by City Council, its approval by the minister in 2012, and then all of the appeals that followed and kept that document not in force and effect for the next 10 years until the tribunal, after hearing from parties who participated in the appeals proceedings, decided and approved the current urban boundaries. So there wasn't ever an opportunity for properties, including Mr. Webster's, to be in a boundary and then out of a boundary. It was not ever inside the urban boundary for Fenland Falls. Those are my comments in response, Mr. Mayor. I'll leave it there and welcome any other questions.
Thank you. Councillor Joyce.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Director Barry, does Councillor Perry's amendment there dilute the plan in any way, or does it actually create a prejudice? Are you okay with this amendment, or do you, is your opinion it should not be accepted?
Through the Mayor to the Councillor, thanks for the question. Yeah, we support the professional technical report in its current state, including Council's endorsement of it from the committee of the whole motion. We don't think that any additional language is needed to explain its purpose. We think that the document reads itself, and in my opinion, the additional language wouldn't contribute to supporting or clarifying anything. We don't think that's necessary.
Councillor Richardson.
Thank you. And just as maybe as a sum up to being on that, the committee as well, is it is a technical document, and it's, you know, the overall is to look at the land budget and how it affects the acreages in all our communities. I mean, we have probably 50 plus active applications or applications looking to do development in our area. We have one here today saying you need to change the language. Well, one was here today. So for me, I feel like it is a solid report, and it does give us the tools moving forward when we do need to move into our OP review, and I really do look for council to support it as written.
Thank you. Seeing no more questions or comments, Councillor Perry, would you like to sum up?
Sure, and thanks, Mayor, and thanks very much to everyone for their views. I, don't want to get distracted necessarily by Mr. Webster's history with his land, because this isn't brought for Black Bear today. It's an example, not an instant case. And I really think this is one of the instances where reasonable minds can differ. I know Mr. Webster was the only person to bring this forward in terms of a deputation, but really, in my view, a disclaimer type sentence would help all of the landowners who want to bring more applications in the future, as Councillor Warren has noted as well. I understand fully that the GMS is to inform the official plan, and also that, to Director Barry's point, correct, the GMS does not allocate those 38 hectares, particularly in Fenelon Falls, that are specific to Fenelon Falls, and nor should it. That wasn't the mandate. However, there is a developer with an application who happens to be on the land that has the star and that has the picture, in the GMS that has been identified as a preliminary preferred site. And I do see this as potentially prejudicial. I know that we're supposed to look at everything in its entirety, but to me, the reality is we know how things happen. People see different parts that they're interested in, and I believe that this language, this sentence, would help all those who want to bring applications. The mayor and I know there are other parties who are interested in some of those 38 hectares to not have to worry, to basically assuage their concerns that this is going to have an effect that's unintended. And, I've been told, and we've heard today, there's no big effect. So perhaps adding this line, if nothing else, would be a great way to assuage the fears of residents or interested landowners, particularly in my ward, in Ward 3, and that of Councillor Warren, given her friendly amendment. Thank you very much for considering.
Thank you.
I'm big on assuage. We need to assuage, Mayor.
Worth a lot of money.
Assuage. Sorry, Mayor. That means to calm down, okay, to help people to understand, right, to have their fears lessened.
Thank you for looking that up in your Funkin' Wagnalls.
I have it on Google here, Mayor.
Okay. We have a motion on the floor, and that was sum up. All in favor? And that fails. So does somebody want to make a motion to move that the growth management strategy, item 935, be endorsed as input into the city's official plan review and updated population and employment forecast for the city of Kawartha Lakes to 2051? Councillor Richardson, seconder. Deputy Mayor McDonald, all in favor? And that passes. Sorry, Councillor Yeo, do you want to say something?
Oh, I just wanted to ask a quick question on it, but if it's already passed, then I guess I'm too late.
Thank you. Sorry, I didn't see your hand earlier. Next up is item 9311. Councillor Yeo, that's yours. That's
Thank you, Mr.
the,
Mayor. This one's got me puzzled. So I got some questions for staff. 121 Autumn Lane. they've
yeah,
been
just
told they
before
can't-
you do that, Counselor, did you see the note from Miss Carroll that she sent this morning? She sent a note this morning asking that she be able to purchase the road allowance. And we sent that off to Land Management and Ms. Carlson for their comments on it to get back. So I don't know if that helps you or not, but I thought I should make you aware of it.
Yeah, I have it. I actually have it right in front of me. And although she did say that they'd be willing to, they certainly don't want that to be the way around it. But if they had to, they would buy the road allowance. My questions for staff are why these people were told they couldn't reside here, and this is their words. They couldn't reside here, and there's only zone for a hunting camp, and so on. This property has had buildings on it for decades. The present house was put there in the early 90s and actually predates the zoning bylaw. The zoning bylaw, if correct me if I'm wrong, was instituted in 94, and the current house was put there in 91, and it replaced a house that was already there, and the barn's been there for decades. So I'd like to know how we ended up here, how we ended up telling somebody their house can't be lived in and it's only zoned for a hunting camp. So just some background from staff as to why we would tell somebody that.
So I don't think we can get all the answers here today. Would you be willing to refer this back to staff to get the answers to those questions and also the answer to whether this purchase of the road allowance would solve the problem and what other options may be available?
Yeah, I guess I could still ask for an answer that this property predates the zoning bylaw. So that'd be a simple answer. So if it predates the zoning bylaw and the house is already there, is it not legal non-conforming, I guess?
Let's see. Ms. Barry, can you respond to that or not?
Thanks for the question. Yeah, so there is a lengthy file on this property, and we are currently reviewing the structures and the buildings, when and under what circumstances they were built, and whether they comply and to what extent with the zoning bylaw, because there are a number of enforcement matters on the go. So we would very much appreciate the opportunity to answer Councillor Yo's questions in a follow-up where we can get all those details in front of council.
Thank you. So, Councillor, do you want to refer that back to staff, and we'll get a seconder, and we'll get a report back with the answers to those questions?
I will make the motion that we look at either selling or conveying the road allowance. We look at other rezoning options, minor variance options to make it legal non-compliant, land use agreement options, and any other options that I can't think of that could satisfy the people's right to live in their own house.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is there a seconder to that? Councillor Warren. When do you want that report back? Second
Back
quarter?
as soon as humanly possible. The people wanted to sell this house, so right now they're kind of handcuffed, and we've greatly deteriorated the value of their house if by doing this. So I want this done as soon as humanly possible. Thank you.
Ms. Barry, what's a reasonable time frame for you?
Thanks for the opportunity, Mr. Mayor, to dictate the timeline. We hear the councillors request that the review take place expeditiously. It's well underway. I think we're very close, if not over, the deadline for reporting for the March series of meetings. The earliest then we could get the information in front of council would be April.
April Committee of the Whole or April Council? April Council latest, okay. Councillor Warren, did you want to speak to this? Okay. Councillor Yeo, do you want to sum up?
No, I have nothing to add at this time, and I appreciate staff moving expeditiously. Thank you.
Thank you. All in favor? And that passes. Oh, we need a motion to receive that deputation as well. So Councillor Yeo, Councillor Perry, all in favor? And that's passed. Deputy Mayor McDonald, you have 9312, which is a request for water bill reduction.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, that, the deputation of Mackenzie Parker and Devin Thompson regarding the request for a water bill reduction for 55 Colburn Street East be received and just referred back to staff for review. And if I have a second, I'll just take a second to explain.
Councillor Richardson will second it.
Thank you. Yeah, this, with the deputation they did, they just haven't got any answers yet there. I've talked to the manager and they're going to look into this. So this just gives them a little time to find out and to look at what has happened or give them some kind of an explanation of what's happened or how things work. So all I'm asking is it just go back to staff to review and report back by Q1 2025 if they can do it that quick.
That's the end of March, which is 1 month.
Yeah. I don't know how much time they need for that. If they need more, I'm okay with that.
I know that March is the Committee of the Whole and Council are both really heavy for that month. Could we do it for April?
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Richardson, do you wish to speak to it? No? We have a mover and a seconder to refer back to staff. All in favor? And that passes. 9313. Oh, sorry. We need a motion to receive that too. Is that included in your? So, Councillor McDonald, Councillor Richardson, all in favor. Thank you. 9313 is Councillor Warren, and it's a deputation. It's speaking to the deputation on the impact of rare disease.
Yeah, thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. And I just brought this forward because it was a compelling deputation. I understand that staff are looking into this, so I don't have to make a resolution. Thank you very much.
Could you make a resolution to receive the deputation?
Absolutely.
Seconder, Councillor Perry. All in favor? And that passes. Next up is item 10 on the agenda, that the minutes of the Planning Advisory Committee meeting of February 5th, 2025 be received, and the recommendations included in section 10.3 of the agenda be adopted. Councillor Warren, seconder. Councillor Richardson, all in favor? And that's passed. Moving on to consent agenda, and I believe the consent agenda, Councillor Joyce, you have that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move, and seconded by Councillor Warren, that all of the proposed resolutions shown in section 11.1 of the agenda be approved and adopted by the council in order that they appear on the agenda and sequentially number, save and except for, I have 11.1.5. Are there any additional?
11.1.1 and 11.1.2.
save and except for 11.1.1 and 11.1.2 and 11.1.5.
Thank you. And you had a seconder for that?
Councillor Warren.
Thank you. All in favor? And that passes. Councillor Richardson, you had 11.1.1.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. Actually, I've extracted 11.1.1 and 11.1.2, just looking for maybe an update from CAO Taylor, just to go over the agreement between the Kawartha Lakes Museum and Archives and the Kawartha Lakes Art Gallery. I think it's prudent that we do a quick review. We've already committed to the funding, but it gives council an opportunity and the public to fully understand the terms.
Thank you. Councillor Joyce, turn off your mic, please. Thanks. CAO, would you like to comment?
Sure. Thanks, Mr. Mayor, and through you. So this is one of two partnership agreements that's on the agenda today. You may recall actually at the last council meeting, there was the first of its kind with the Community Foundation. And this is a direction that we're taking certain partnerships in, predominantly where there's either a direct and ongoing funding and or in-kind support. And so again, you're now seeing the next of two. We are still negotiating another one with a community partner that you'll see on a future agenda. So I'll focus on the Kawartha Lakes Museum and Archives to start. So as council's aware, they're an existing tenant in the Old Jail Museum next door here, and they formerly as the Historical Society of Victoria County not only did collection management on their own for private sort of items, artifacts, and collections, but they have historically and for quite some time now managed and operated a community museum. And so council opted a few years ago to provide some ongoing operating funding to help support that museum operation. And so the goal was to use or leverage partnership agreements as a way to solidify the partnership, set out the expectations, what are they delivering for the investment, and then conversely, what they can expect or rely on in order to deliver that local service. And so the museum will continue to operate as a core function for the community, a community museum. And the funding has been allocated and outlined in this draft. The other sort of nuance to partnership agreements, council regularly funds, very often it's one time or it's prescribed sort of funding. That isn't going to go away. There are a number of programs that you have for probably over time, hundreds of community groups and organizations where you're helping in a number of ways, whether it's operating or capital. The ones that we're developing more formal relationships, again, are ones that are sort of delivering a community function as well, or a community service. Sometimes municipalities deliver it, sometimes it's entirely delivered private sector, and sometimes it's a partnership or a combination in between. And so I feel like these are good examples of those partnerships and the reason why we're funding. So the partnership agreement will generally outline funding. We're trying to make them consistent in that they are with this term of council. So we will revisit these agreements on a regular basis at minimum, each new term of council. And again, it spells out not only expectations for service delivery, but also reporting back so that there is a public accountability to the funds that are being extended. So again, the first one on the 11.1.1 is the agreement with the Kawartha Lakes Museum and Archives. We're putting forward this partnership recommendation and recommending that council support it and approve it in its draft form. Thanks.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions here. Councillor Joyce.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, not a question. I just want to point out that our additional funding has put both the museum and the art gallery on a higher plane, so to speak, to that then allowed them to secure better and more grants from provincial and federal governments. Can't recall all the details, but it's kind of a snowball effect, a positive one. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Warren.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just, it makes sense. We own the building, so we have to have some sort of partnership with them because we're liable for the building, so makes sense.
Thank you. So, Councillor Richardson, would you like to move that the report CAO 2025-003 be received, that the partnership agreement substantially in the form provided in Appendix A to report CAO 2025-003 be approved, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute the partnership agreement with the Kawartha Lakes Museum and Archives? Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Warren. All in favor? And that passes. 1112, Councillor Richardson.
Pretty much the same basis. Just looking for just a quick update, recognizing, like I said, there's a lot of press regarding these two in the community, and they are growing in a positive way, and it just shows our commitment and also their commitment to us.
And we may assuage some of their concerns too.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you, I feel quite assuaged to go forward here. So I won't repeat sort of the structure of the partnership agreement. Certainly, it's very similar to what I just described with the Museum and Archives. The Kawartha Art Gallery is another local partner. They have been in our space. We've provided in-kind and also operating funding support. What I will maybe add, because I missed it in the previous, but Councillor Joyce, you actually pointed it out, and I think it's a key factor. I mean, building these partnership agreements and formalizing them also goes a long way to showing local investment in that sector. And what it enables is leveraging of funding and of grants, and the fact that the municipality is invested in these organizations. And so that's one of the key pieces of feedback that I've heard from the partners that we're entering into these more formal arrangements, but also that ongoing stable, at least base funding. And again, the groups that have had success with this have been able to leverage exponentially. With the art gallery, I also noted in the report, not only is it a sort of funding and it was a space partnership, but just in terms of general community programming, I outlined a relationship or a partnership that we took to the Roma conference. And they were quite an advocate for the municipality, not just obviously locally, but provincially. And it drew the attention of the Kawartha Arts Council, or sorry, the Ontario Arts Council, to stop and actually want to piggyback on this momentum and this partnership. And so just another example of how formalizing these partnerships are really going a long way. So again, Mr. Mayor, I would just recommend that Council receive the partnership agreement and the report, approve it in its draft form, and authorize us to execute it and implement the partnership. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions, comments? Seeing none. Oh, sorry. Did you want to do something, Councillor Joyce?
I just want to add one more thing, in that they're both economic drivers to the city. Let's not forget that. It's a good investment. A return on investment. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Councillor Richardson, that report CAO 25-004, partnership agreement Kawartha Art Gallery be received, that the partnership agreement substantially in the form provided in Appendix A to report CAO 2025-004 be approved, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute the partnership agreement with the Kawartha Art Gallery. Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Joyce. All in favor? And that's passed. The last extraction from consent is 1115, municipal credit rating. Councillor Joyce.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, I'm going to move it as printed. I had questions for staff and fully satisfied that our current debt financing strategy, including Infrastructure Ontario, is the right way to go. They're keeping their eyes on an alternative method of maintaining a credit rating, but we're not there and not ready for that yet. So we're we're on the right path. Thank you.
Thank you. Did you want to make any comments on that, Director, or you're fine?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I am fine. Thank you for asking. I concur with the councillor in the questions this morning in regards to Infrastructure Ontario and the rates that we currently are able to procure. At some point, when our debt reaches, the Treasurer has expertly gone out to benchmark, and approximately 50 million is the annual debt issuance that might merit a break even for us in order to secure that pricing. But again, going to that credit rating involves additional resources, et cetera, that would need to be built into the cost. As a comparison, the debt that you just approved, the bylaw on the last council meeting, was approximately 30 million. So that's the amount you're going out for in 25. And February 4th, you heard the millions, billions of dollars in growth required projects coming forth. So it won't be too far into the future before we hit that $50 million mark. We would then reassess whether the effort, the reporting, et cetera, is worth the beneficial rate versus the Infrastructure Ontario rate.
Thank you. So you're moving it as printed? Oh, sorry, Councillor Warren, did you have something?
Just for you, this came forward from Councillor Ashmore during a planning meeting, I believe, and roads meeting. And it was the roads, really, the only way we can really make a big difference with roads is to have more money. So at this point, after reading the report, it doesn't make sense to actually move forward with a credit rating, but in the future, it looks like that would be a possibility to access more funds.
Director?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. That's a bit of a trick question, Councillor. Currently, in our annual repayment limit and our debt ability, we do have room. So we can go out and debenture, and we'll bring you forth a financial strategy in June or July of this year that does do that 10-year long-term planning. All we're suggesting is at this point in time, Infrastructure Ontario is able to beat the rates of any credit rating should we be successful at achieving that credit rating. Infrastructure Ontario has a mandate to offer affordable debt for smaller municipalities, and we've benefited from that agreement.
Thank you. So we have a mover. Can we have a seconder? Councillor Perry. All in favor? And that's passed. Moving on, we have no petitions. We have no other new business, so we're into bylaws. Councillor Richardson.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor, moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Joyce, that the bylaws shown in section 14.1 of the agenda, namely items 14.1.1 to and including 14.1.20, be read first, second, and third time pass numbers signed and the corporate seal attached.
Thank you. Any comments, questions on bylaws? Seeing none, all in favor? And that's passed. Can I get a mover and seconder that the closed session agenda be adopted as circulated? Councillor Warren, Councillor Richardson, all those in favor? And that's passed. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest in closed session items? Seeing none, at this point in the meeting, City Council will go into closed session to consider the items under section 16.3 of the agenda. As per our procedural bylaw requirements, I'm asking all electronic participants in our meeting today to confirm to me by raising their hands that they are in a private room where no other persons can overhear the deliberations and the internet connection is secure and not publicly accessible. Thank you. That council convene into closed session at 2:14 PM pursuant to Section 239(2) of the Municipal Act in order to consider matters identified in Section 16.3 of the regular council meeting agenda of Tuesday, February 18th, 2025, namely items 16.3.1 to and including 16.3.5. I have a mover and seconder. Deputy Mayor McDonald, Councillor Joyce. All those in favor? And that's passed. At this point, the meeting broadcast will now end for members of the public watching on Cogeco, your TV cable. The live stream of the meeting on YouTube and the rebroadcast will now be temporarily paused for members of the public. When closed session is complete, the live stream and the rebroadcast of the meeting will resume to address the remaining open session items on the agenda. All remaining staff, with the exception of those involved within the closed session, are now instructed to leave the electronic meeting and the council chambers at this time. Joel, are you offline? Madam Clerk, items from closed session.
Item 16.3.1, the confidential closed session minutes for the regular council meeting of January 28th, 2025 were approved. Item 16.3.2, council provided direction to staff with regards to the acquisition of land along County Road 121, Fallon Falls. Item 16.3.3, an appeal and counteroffer for the shoreline road allowance adjacent to 203 Avery Point Road, Seabright, was provided to council. Council provided instruction to staff. Item 16.3.4, council provided direction regarding the acquisition of land along Lindsay Street South, Lindsay. Item 16.3.5, the city solicitor provided information to council with respect to nuisance occasioned to Kagawaga Road as a result of a beaver dam located on private property. The city solicitor was provided instruction to commence litigation to permit entry by city staff or city agents onto private property, to remove a beaver dam, or otherwise to do works to reduce water levels so as to ameliorate the impacts of high water levels on Kagawag Road.
Beats a swage, doesn't it? Councillor Joyce, you have the confirming bylaw?
Yes, I do, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Richardson that a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of a regular council meeting held Tuesday, February 18th, 2025, be read a first, second, and third time, passed, numbered, signed, and the corporate seal attached.
Thank you. All in favor? And that's passed. And lastly, motion to adjourn. Councillor Yeo, Councillor Warren, all in favor? Thank you. Next committee of the whole meeting will be starting at 10 in the morning and then taking a break for lunch and coming back in the afternoon. It is a very heavy agenda. Fortunately, most of the stuff's on the in the consent, and it's all department reports, so we should, unless there are a lot of questions on the department reports, I expect that we'll be okay, but we're making plans in case it's a longer meeting. Thank you. Everybody.